Selections from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. The Ideal of Karma Yoga. Section 2. The next idea we take up is the idea of equality. These millennium ideas have been great motive powers to work. Many religions preach this as an element in them, that God is coming to rule the universe, and that then there will be no difference at all in conditions. The people who preach this doctrine are mere fanatics, and fanatics are indeed the sincerest of mankind. Christianity was preached just on the basis of the fascination of this fanaticism, and that is what made it so attractive to the Greek and Roman slaves. They believed that under the millennial religion there would be no more slavery, that there would be plenty to eat and drink, and therefore they flocked round the Christian standard. Those who preached the idea first were, of course, ignorant fanatics, but very sincere. In modern times, this millennial aspiration takes the form of equality, of liberty, equality, and fraternity. This is also fanaticism. True equality has never been and never can be on earth. How can we all be equal here? This impossible kind of equality implies total death. What makes this world what it is? Lost balance. In the primal state, which is called chaos, there is perfect balance. How do all the formative forces of the universe come then? By struggling, competition, conflict. Suppose that all the particles of matter were held in equilibrium, would there be then any process of creation? We know from science that it is impossible. Disturb a sheet of water, and there you find every particle of the water trying to become calm again, one rushing against the other. And in the same way, all the phenomena which we call the universe, all things therein, are struggling to get back to the state of perfect balance. Again, a disturbance comes, and again we have combination and creation. Inequality is the very basis of creation. At the same time, the forces struggling to obtain equality are as much a necessity of creation as those which destroy it. Absolute equality, that which means a perfect balance of all the struggling forces in all the planes, can never be in this world. Before you attain that state, the world will have become quite unfit for any kind of life, and no one will be there. We find, therefore, that all these ideas of the millennium and of absolute equality are not only impossible, but also that if we try to carry them out, they will lead us surely enough to the day of destruction. What makes the difference between man and man? It is largely the difference in the brain. Nowadays, no one but a lunatic will say that we are all born with the same brain power. We come into the world with unequal endowments, we come as greater men or as lesser men, and there is no getting away from that prenatally determined condition. The American Indians were in this country for thousands of years, and a few handfuls of your ancestors came to their land. What a difference have they caused in the appearance of the country? Why did not the Indians make improvements and build cities if all were equal? With your ancestors, a different sort of brain power came into the land, different bundles of past impressions came, and they worked out and manifested themselves. Absolute non differentiation is death. So long as this world lost differentiation, there will and must be, and the millennium of perfect equality will come only when a cycle of creation comes to its end. Before that, equality cannot be. Yet, this idea of realizing the millennium is a great motive power. Just as inequality is necessary for creation itself, so the struggle to limit it is also necessary. If there were no struggle to become free and get back to God, there would be no creation either. It is the difference between these two forces that determines the nature of the motives of men. There will always these motives to work, some tending towards bondage and others towards freedom. This world's wheel within wheel is a terrible mechanism. If we put our hands in it, as soon as we are caught, we are gone. We all think that we have done a certain duty, we shall be at rest. But before we have done a part of the duty, another is already in waiting. We are all being dragged along by this mighty complex world machine. There are only two ways out of it. One is to give up all concerns with the machine, to let it go and stand aside, to give up our desires. That is very easy to say, but is almost impossible to do. I do not know whether in 20 millions of men one can do that. The other way is to plunge into the world and learn the secret of work, and that is the way of Karma Yoga. Do not fly away from the wheels of the world machine, but stand inside it and learn the secret of work. Through proper work done inside, it is also possible to come out. Through this machinery itself is the way out. We have now seen that what work is. It is a part of nature's foundation and goes on always. Those that believe in God understand this better because they know that God is not such an incapable being as will need our help. Although this universe will go on always, our goal is freedom. Our goal is unselfishness. And according to Karma Yoga, that goal is to be reached through work. All ideas of making the world perfectly happy may be good as motive powers for fanatics. But we must know that fanaticism brings forth as much evil as good. The Karma Yogi asks why you require any motive to work other than the inborn love of freedom. Be beyond the common worldly motives. To work you have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. Man can train himself to know and to practice that, says the Karma Yogi. When the idea of doing good becomes a part of his very being, then he will not seek for any motive outside. Let us do good because it is good to do good. He who does good work even in order to get to heaven binds himself down, says the Karma Yogi. Any work that is done with any the least selfish motive instead of making us free forges one more chain for our feet. So, the only way is to give up all the fruits of work, to be unattached to them. Know that this world is not we, nor are we this world, that we are really not the body, that we really do not work. We are the self, eternally at rest and at peace. Why should we be bound by anything? It is very good to say that we should be perfectly non attached, but what is the way to do it? Every good work we do without any ulterior motive instead of forging a new chain will break one of the links in the existing chains. Every good thought that we send to the world without thinking of any return will be stored up there and break one link in the chain and makes us purer and purer until we become the purest of the mortals. Yet all this may seem to be rather quixotic and too philosophical, more theoretical than practical. I have read many arguments against the Bhagavad Gita, and many have said that without motives you cannot work. They have never seen unselfish work except under the influence of fanaticism, and therefore they speak in that way. Let me tell you in conclusion a few words about one man who actually carried this teaching of Karma Yoga into practice. That man is Buddha. He is the one man who ever carried this into perfect practice. All the prophets of the world except Buddha had external motives to move them to unselfish action. The prophets of the world, with this single exception, may be divided into two sets. One set holding that they are incarnations of God come down on earth, and other holding that they are only messengers from God, and both draw their impetus for work from outside, expect reward from outside. However, highly spiritual may be the language they use. But Buddha is the only prophet who said, I do not care to know your various theories about God. What is the use of discussing your various theories, all the subtle doctrines about the soul? Do good and be good, and this will take you to freedom and to whatever truth there is. He was in the conduct of his life absolutely without personal motives, and what man worked more than he? Show me in history one character who has soared so high above all. The whole human race has produced but one such character, such high philosophy, such wide sympathy. This great philosopher, preaching the highest philosophy, yet had the deepest sympathy for the lowest animals, and never put forth any claims for himself. He is the ideal karma yogi, acting entirely without motive, and the history of humanity shows him to have been the greatest man ever born. Beyond compare, the greatest combination of heart and brain that ever existed, the greatest soul power that has ever been manifested. He is the first great reformer the world has seen. He was the first who dared to say, believe not because some old manuscripts are produced. Believe not because it is your national belief, because you have been made to believe it from your childhood. But reason it all out, and after you have analyzed it, then, if you find that it will do good to one and all, believe it, live up to it, and help others to live up to it. He works best who works without any motive, neither for money, nor for fame, nor for anything else. And when a man can do that, he will be a Buddha. And out of him will come the power to work in such a manner as will transform the world. This man represents the very highest ideal of Karma Yoga.